I get I get questions where people are like, okay, well, what are your inspirations? Or like, what are things that you were thinking about when you were writing the story and stuff like that? And just sort of to mirror what you were saying, like it is really validating to sort of be asked in more depth. And I feel like most artists go through this where they're kind of seeking those moments where they're asked more in depth about where their ideas are coming from. And then kind of because it's an opportunity to open up about maybe what your overall philosophy on things is, or like what are the deeper thoughts that you're having in your head that you haven't figured out how to properly communicate in art at the moment.
That's interesting. I wish I could have that kind of feedback these days, where it's like people, you know what I mean? Because when you do, you present stuff on the internet for a critique or whatever, and I think the most sometimes even when someone hates your work can almost be a validating thing because
Oh yeah. Oh,
when you
for sure.
when you're looking at it, the most deflating thing as an artist is when your work gets ignored.
Yeah.
When no one wants to comment either way, whether they're booing or cheering, it's good.
Yeah.
But when the crowd goes silent, that's when you're like, damn, I
I have
definitely
a
fucked up.
theory. I have a theory that you have nobody has made it as an artist until they have vehemently irrational haters. It's not until that point that you know that you're breaking through. Because yeah, you're gonna have people who are gonna love your art, but they might only stick around for a while, you know? I mean the haters only stick around for a while too. But for somebody to go out of their way to hate what you're making requires an extra level of involvement. Contempt requires an extra level of involvement that love never quite will meet, because contempt requires somebody going out of their way to be negative towards somebody else, which inevitably hurts them too. Like holding on to that negativity is like
Sure.
just as toxic for them as it is for the other person that they're lobbing that toxicity at. Um, but to go out of their way to do it is like it's a really perverted form of love. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
Like and
It's
then
like
here's
the rom
another.
com where the
Yeah,
where the guy and the girl hate each other, and then by the end of the movie, they fall in love. Yeah.
this actually, and this goes into another question I have for you, because I know I've had this a couple of times. Has there ever been an artist that you admire, but on the face you just hate because you're like, I can't believe this guy is getting so much attention, but deep down you're like, God, he's so good at what he does.
Um, Maybe I'm misunderstanding your question, but
Maybe it's just particular to me because I've had artists where I find that I'm doing that rom-com thing of like being feeling aggro towards them, and at the same time being like, oh, but they're such a good artist. Like I don't understand.
I have I have one particular filmmaker, and I will reveal the name if you want me to. You got to ask though. I won't just
Yeah, you're
volunteer.
welcome to.
Okay. But
I'm curious.
before I say their name, I will say my relationship with them, and this is not a personal relationship. Clearly, this is an audience and artist relationship. But every time they tweet something, or they're in an interview and they talk about filmmaking and they talk about execution and content and style, everything that they say about film, I'm like, fuck yes, I believe exactly what you say. You are right. That is 100% the way I see it too. I believe what you believe. Da 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 da. But every single one of their movies, I don't see what everyone else sees, because everyone else is like, oh my God, it was amazing. And I was like, really? It really wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And that filmmaker for me, and I'm about to get lynched, Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah. Well, I can see that though, because I mean, I like Del Toro, but I can see why you might feel that way because his stuff is very like what's the word? He has a particular style,
Yeah.
like he's kind of like sushi. Like you either like it or you don't.
Well, there's a thing where I've noticed in audiences, and I'm starting to really get a grasp more on different types of audiences. where there are people who are simply there for style, just
Oh
for
yeah, sure.
the visual aesthetic and style. And I've noticed that Del Toro's visual style, and I'm not hating on this at all, is incredible. It's a signature. It's great. It's original. It's powerful. It's well thought out. It's well executed. The whole nine
Yeah.
yards. The stories, however, on the other hand, do not speak to me on any level whatsoever. But I've noticed that there are filmmakers, or there is an audience who simply goes for style, period.
Yeah.
And then there's another section of film audiences that go for story, period. And they could care less about the style here and there. And I'm more of a story guy. But when I hear Del Toro talk, I'm like, yeah, why don't you do what you're talking about? I don't see it there. But I've come to the conclusion he's a visual aesthetic filmmaker. But when he gets a good script by somebody, he can make a great film. But when he does other scripts or whatever, or even if he writes them himself, I'm not that well up on it, to be honest. Um, they don't speak to me. And the same goes for another filmmaker who is very hot topic right now, Zack Snyder. I
Oh
think
sure. Yeah, I
visually,
agree.
Snyder is incredible. I think he's a great visual artist. I think
Yeah.
he can film and everything like that. I think he can probably even direct quite well. But the scripts that he directs are terrible. So
Yeah.
that
Right.
pulls all the air out of it for me. But another thing about critique that I'm starting just now in my career as an artist to understand is looking at the audience and understanding that certain audiences are wanting different things or
Oh yeah.
expecting different things, and that's a big part of understanding their critique. So when someone says that they loved The Last Jedi, Star Wars, they were looking for something to somebody to turn the table over when it
Yeah.
came into Star Wars. They
Yeah.
did not want
That's
the same thing over again. And then there was another subsection of the audience that was like, no, 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 no. We just want a new version of Empire Strikes Back. We don't want anything.
yeah.
Don't get artsy on me. Just this is popcorn Star Wars movie. Give me what I want.
Yeah.
And then there's another part of me that's like, I was in that section where I was like, just give me what I want. I don't want to. Let's not
Yeah.
try things. And then on the other side of that, I hated Rogue One, which was the
I
epitome of the movie where it's like, here's
yeah.
everything you want, and I
Yeah.
was like,
We
no, too many
really we
cookies.
really agree on that. I did not want any of that in Rogue One that happened. And then Last Jedi for me, I was one of those people where it was the demented kind of stuff I exactly wanted in Last Jedi, where
And
Yoda's burning the scrolls of the Jedi and I don't know what's gonna happen now. Like
yeah,
I was exactly what I was looking for, but it was clearly not what a lot of other people were looking for, and that's okay, you know. At least I got it once, you know.